Hello and welcome to another battle report, where today we have an abandoned imperial outpost that the mercenary Kroot have been tasked with infiltrating and holding and waiting until their town support arrives. Unfortunately for them, there is a small presence of Tyranid warriors who have been stranded here and have been left to fend for themselves and search for their own biomass, in which they have found the Kroot, who will be more than unwilling to provide that biomass. And the mission that we will be playing today is escalating hostilities, where we have the 6 objectives on the board here. And at the end of the second and third initiative phases, each player will remove a token from the side closest to them, with the deployment zones being on this side of the board and this side of the board. And the teams that we have fighting today is, on the Tyranid side, we have 2 fire teams of warriors. We have 2 heavy gunners, one with a venom cannon and one with a barbed strangler. And we then have 2 weapon beasts, one with rending claws, lash whip, bone sword, and the other one with scything talons, bone sword, and lash whip. We have a standard Tyranid warrior just with a death spitter and dual bone swords, and we have the Tyranid leader, who will be a weapons beast. And moving over to the Kroot, we will have 4 Kroot hounds here, 1 Kroot ox, which we have recruited in, and the rest of the operatives will be standard Kroot warriors, with the Kroot leader being this gentleman right here. Now we're going to roll off to decide who will be the attacker and who will be the defender. Tyranids will roll first. 2, and the Kroot. The 6. So the Kroot will get to choose who is the attacker, and we will be back once we have gone through that. Okay, so we're back, and we're just going to go through the setup sequence that's occurred here. So we started off by rolling off, and the Kroot decided to take this side due to more cover on that heavy container there. So that means the Tyranids were the attacker and the Kroots are the defender. We have selected the tac ops for both sides, which will be revealed as we play through. And the equipment that's been selected is the Kroot have gone with skinning knives, and there are 5 Kroot warriors here, all with knives. Those are the characters that have the skinning knife equipment. That's 5 of them, so that's 10 EP for 5 skinning knives, which will increase the damage on their weapons. I believe it's 3-5 skinning knife now, which is better than their standard rifle blades. And the Tyranids have gone with adrenal glands for 2 EP on each of the weapons beast, and they have also gone for feeder tendrils on the leader, which every time he incapacitates an enemy operative, he will regenerate D3 lost wounds. And also on the scything talons weapon beast, he also has a feeder tendrils, and that is their equipment. Barricades have been set up here and here for the Tyranids, and here for the Kroot. We did the scouting step, and both sides chose a free dash action, which means the Tyranids will have the initiative in turning point 1, and I will be back after they have both done their free dash action, and we'll go through the strategy phase before the game begins. So just to go over this, on the Kroot side, all the Kroot have been set up with a conceal order, whilst Tyranids have 2 on an engage order and the rest on a conceal order. Both teams will gain a CP, bring them up to 3 CP, and which are these dice here. And both teams will now choose whether to play strategic ploys. Now the Tyranids are going to go with Stalk, which will allow them to select one model in the strategy phase to do a free normal move. And the Kroot are going to go for Perfect Ambush, which will allow them to change their order during turning point 1 of any of the models when they are activated. So we are going to go ahead and do the free normal move of the Tyranids, and the free dashes on both sides that I forgot to go over was this guy here dashed up to that objective, and this weapon beast leader dashed up to here. So we will come back after the Tyranid has done his free normal move and we start the turning point. So the Tyranid warrior here did his free normal move up to that objective there, and Tyranids also revealed these 2 attack ops. Now we're going to turning point 1, starting with the Tyranids, and we'll be back to do any dice rolls that occur, and if there are no dice rolls, we will go through the movement once we return. And we are back. Something I did forget to mention, the challenge here. The leader of the Tyranids, the blue weapon beast, challenged the leader of the Kroot over here. So he is going to try and take him out, basically. All the Tyranids moved up here. The Kroot managed to, they just out-activated the Tyranids, so that this very scary Barb Strangler blast weapon was unable to get any multiple blast hits on them. And the last activation of the Tyranids that they have had remaining was this weapon beast to charge up from this position onto this lowly Kroot warrior here. Now, he has 2 bone swords, so he'll get 5 attacks. He has a lash whip, which takes 1 attack from the Kroot warrior, giving him a measly 2, hitting on a 3+, and the warrior will be hitting on a 2+ because he's the leader. So we're just going to go ahead and do that now. So the warrior rolling 5 dice on 2+, 5+ lethal, which means that 5 or a 6 is a crit, and that is really quite bad. So that's 2 misses for the warrior and 3 normal hits, and the Kroot is looking for 3+, and that is a miss and a hit for the Kroot. So with the warrior going first, he's going to choose to parry that and then deal 2 sets of normal damage to the Kroot, which I believe will kill him, which is a total of 8 damage. And that is a dead Kroot warrior over here. Does, however, leave that warrior exposed now to get potentially shot by these guys, because they can actually change their order in turning point 1. So we will be back and see what happens after that. So that is a dead Kroot warrior after that fighting over here, which will also award the Tyranids 1 VP for rout. And now the Kroot leader over here has backed off pretty much as far as he can go there. He switched his order to a engage order and is going to use his increased ballistic skill as a leader to take a shot at the warrior and try and do some damage to him before he gets to him. Now the Kroot carnivore leader is going to have 3 dice hitting on 2+ with his Kroot rifle. So that is a crit and 2 hits from the Kroot carnivore leader. And the warrior is in cover, so he will choose to retain a normal save there and roll the other 2 looking for 4s. And that is a crit and a normal save, which means all that damage from the Kroot carnivore leader is blocked, and his activation is now over. Back for the next one. So this Kroot warrior here is going to move and try and put some more shots into that warrior. They're really going to try and get some damage on him because he's a big threat to them right now. And the standard Kroot warrior will have 3 shots with his rifle, hitting on 3+. So crit and a hit and 1 miss. And the warrior will retain 1 again for the cover and roll the other 2, looking for 4-ups. And he fails both of them. So he will take a critical hit, which is 4 damage to that warrior. He will take 4 damage. So the leader will take 4 damage, which takes him from 19 to 15 wounds, and this Kroot's activation is over. So essentially the same thing's going to happen again, except with this Kroot warrior here. He's moved up to that position and he's going to shoot the warrior there, and this time the warrior's not going to be able to retain any dice for cover there because he doesn't have any. Something I should have mentioned earlier is on this map of terrain, the heavy and obscuring terrain is this little vehicle here, that vehicle there, and all of these shipping containers are considered heavy and obscuring, and everything else is just light terrain. We will roll out now for the Kroot warrior. So he's going to have 3 dice hitting on 3s. That is 2. Sorry, the Kroot rifles actually hit on 4s, so that's only 1 hit. That's me getting that mixed up with the rifle blades. So that's just 1 hit there, and the warrior will roll 3 dice looking for a 4-up, which he gets, and he takes no damage there. So that will be the end of this Kroot's activation. And on to the next one. So we have this Kroot warrior here who has moved up from this objective number 4, and he is going to take a shot again at the Tyranid leader, and because that is just light terrain over there, he isn't obscured. If that was a heavy piece of terrain, he would not be able to shoot that warrior because he is over circle away from where a cover line intersects the terrain. So he is going to shoot over there. This time I will remember that it's 3 dice on a 4+. So that is 2 normal hits against the Tyranid warrior, and again he can't retain any dice for cover, so it's going to be 3 dice looking for 4-ups. That is 1 normal save, meaning he will take 1 normal damage, which is 3 damage. We'll take that 15 down to 12. So the 2 Kroot hounds had their activations. We had 2 back here. 1 moved up to this objective, whilst the second one moved up to stay with his pal over there. The Krootox has done a move and a dash over here, and is going to take a shot, which I don't think he can. We're going to rethink this because he actually cannot make that shot there. If you try to draw a cover line from his base, it will intersect that heavy terrain, and because he's more than circle away, he is considered obscured. So the Kroot are going to rethink that and come back. So the Kroot have had a rethink about that choice, and he's chosen to have his first. He's got 3 APL, the Krootox. His first APL is going to be a dash to that side of the container, which he's within triangle of, and he can see the warrior from there, and because he's within triangle, we do not take into consideration it intersecting that piece of the terrain. So he is able to shoot the warrior. And the Krootox has a Kroot gun, which is 4 dice, hitting on 4+, and it is rending, which means if we get a crit, we can turn another normal hit into a crit also. So here we go. So that's going to be just one hit from the Kroot gun. And the warrior cannot retain any dice for cover, so it's going to be 3 dice looking for 4+. And the warrior saves it, so no damage to the warrior. And we will just do the final APL of the Krootox and come back after that. So the Krootox decided to back off again with a normal move behind the cover to keep himself safe. And that's the end of that turning point, in which the Kroot are only going to score 1 point for this objective here. This objective here is contested by the warrior, as there's only one Kroot carnivore within range of that objective. And the Tyranids will score 2 points for those objectives. And they've also scored 1 from this attack op over here. So we're just going to roll for initiative for the next phase. Tyranids are going to go 2, and the Kroot with a 3. So the initiative for the start of turning point 2 will be the Kroot. We'll be back in the strategy phase. Okay, so with all the operatives readied, the Kroot chose to remove this objective, and the Tyranids chose to remove this objective. The tactical ploys, the Kroot have kept their tactical ploys concealed, and the Tyranids revealed execution because in the first turning point they killed 1 model, and the Kroot did not kill any. So that is all the Tyranids tac ops revealed. And the Tyranids, for their strategic ploys, they chose to do Stalk again, which allowed this warrior to do a normal move up to this area here. And the Kroot have gone for the ability to charge from concealment, and they're able to re-roll 1 attack dice in any fighting action that they do. That's cost them 2 CP, bringing them down to 1 CP after regaining 1 for moving into the second turning point, and the Tyranids are at 2 CP at this moment in time. So we're going to start with coming back with the Kroot's first activation. So for the Kroot, this Kroot carnivore warrior here is going to move up from behind these boxes, just behind this container, and he's going to shoot this warrior here with the engage order, and he's going to have 4 dice looking for 4+ with his Kroot rifle. So that's going to be 3 hits for the Kroot, and the warrior will be able to retain 1, which he will, and he will roll the other 2 looking for 4-ups. He gets 1 and fails 1, meaning that he will take 3 damage from that Kroot. And we'll be back with the Tyranid activation. For the Tyranids activation, this warrior is going to make a charge on the Kroot Hound here behind cover. And he's going to attack with his Scything Talons, which will give him 5 attacks on 3+ with balance, which means he can re-roll 1 of his dice, one of his failed dice. And the Kroot Hound will have 4 attacks looking for 3+, and it's rending, so if it gets a crit, can turn a normal to a crit also. So we're going to roll that out now, starting with the Tyranid warrior, looking for 3+. So that's going to be 3 hits, 2 misses, but with balance we can re-roll 1 of those, which we will, into a normal hit. And the Kroot Hound, 4 dice, looking for 3+. That's going to be 2 misses, but we can re-roll 1, thanks to the strategic ploy of re-rolling 1 attack dice into another 1. And because of this crit, we can change this to a crit also. So it's 2 crits for the Kroot Hound. Now the warrior can't block those crits, so the first thing he's going to do is hit the Kroot Hound for 4 damage, which takes the Hound down to 4. And the Kroot Hound is then going to reveal attack op whilst also implanting the warrior with this crit to score them 1 VP. And then the warrior is going to hit the hound and kill the hound, incapacitating it. So the warrior doesn't take any damage from the implant, but the Kroot do score 1 VP for that. So that is a dead Kroot hound there. So on the Kroot's activation, the Krootox here is going to make a normal move over to this position, and he's going to shoot the warrior leader here. He's going to have 4 dice looking for 4+. Any crits, he can turn a normal into a crit due to the rending ability. So that's going to be a crit and 2 hits, which means that one of those becomes a crit. That is a miss. So the warrior has been hit by 2 crits and 1 hit. The warrior will choose to retain a normal for being in cover, which will block this one, and roll 2 dice looking for 4-ups. That is 1 normal and 1 fail. So instead of blocking that normal, he will block the crit, because otherwise that would be a dead warrior. That total damage there for the crit will be 6 and 4, which is 10. So I think at this point, the Tyranids will spend a CP to reroll one of those dice and just try and block that normal to reduce that damage on him. And they fail, meaning the Kroot warrior will take 10 damage from the Krootox, and for his last activation, the Krootox will just dash a bit further back, try and stay away from him. For the Tyranids activation, this warrior is now really on his last legs. He would be on his he would be injured if he did not have the synapse ability, which essentially ignores injury. So he charged these 2 Kroot down here, and he's going to fight them in the hope. Well, he's going to fight one of them in the hopes that he will not take any hits, because if even one goes through, he will die. So we will just go through that now. They both have skinning blades, so he's going to actually go into target this guy at the front. And the skinning blade is going to be 3+4 attacks, hitting with 3/5 damage, and the Tyranid will have 5 attacks on 2+ with the bone swords, and 5 and 6s are crits. So we'll start with the warrior. And that is 2 hits. Sorry, 3 normal hits and 1 crit for the warrior. Roll for the Kroot carnivore. 4 dice, 3+. And they get to reroll 1 for the strategic ploy. That's a hell of a Kroot carnivore. That is 2 crits, 2 hits. So the warrior will choose to crit the Kroot there, which will do 6 damage, I believe. And the Kroot is going to make the choice of actually killing that warrior and preventing them from scoring any more VP from him with the crit, which is 5 damage, which will kill the warrior. So the Tyranid warrior here will die, and the Kroot carnivore here will take 6 damage from the bone swords. So for the Kroot's activation, the Kroot who was behind this guy has moved up over here, and he's going to take a shot at that warrior, and because they're within circle of each other, the warrior cannot retain any dice for cover. So the Kroot carnivore is going to have 4 dice on a 4+ with the Kroot rifle. And that's going to be crit and 2 hits for the Kroot. And the warrior will have to roll 3 dice looking for 4-ups. And only gets 1 crit, which will block the crit. And the warrior will take 2 lots of normal damage, which in total is 3 each, which in total is 6 damage. So the warrior goes from 18 to 12 wounds there. So this Tyranid warrior here has moved up to the objective on here. He was just behind that container. And for the Kroot's activation, the carnivore over here has moved up to this location here and is going to shoot at this Tyranid warrior. So again, we're going to have the 4 dice looking for 4 up. So that's no hits from the Kroot. And that's his activation done, and on to the Tyranid. This warrior here has moved up to there with his last APL. He's going to take a shot at that Kroot behind the container there, who from this angle will not be able to retain any dice for cover there and will not get his 4+ armor save being in cover. So the Tyranids will be rolling 5 dice, looking for 4+ for the Death Spitter. That's a crit and a hit. And the Kroot are looking for 6 ups because there's no cover, 3 dice. That's no saves. And the Death Spitter has a damage profile of 4/5, which means that Kroot is incapacitated. So for the Kroot, this injured Kroot with a measly 2 wounds left, is going to bravely charge the warrior here, and he's going to have 4 dice, looking for 4 ups now because he is injured. So that's going to be, gets to reroll 1 of those to a crit. So he gets 2 crits and a hit. And the warrior is going to have 5 dice, looking for 3 up, and can reroll 1 of the failed rolls. So reroll that to a 4. So that is going to be 4 normal hits and a crit. And the Kroot warrior, instead of doing any damage, he is going to implant the warrior, and then the warrior will retaliate by killing him. And if the Kroot can implant 1 other enemy operative, they will score a 2nd VP for that attack op. So that guy has now died. Now for the Tyranids activation, this warrior with the venom cannon is just going to make a small dash over here, just so he can get a nice sight line on the Krootox sat at the back over there. He's going to take a shot, and the Krootox doesn't have any cover there, so he cannot retain any dice because he is not within triangle of any cover. So the warrior with the venom cannon is going to have 5 dice, looking for 4 ups. It's AP1. Here we go. So that's going to be 2 misses, a crit, and 2 hits by the venom cannon. Now, because the weapon's AP1, the 3 normal dice saves you get are reduced to 2, and it's going to be 2 dice looking for 4 ups for the Krootox. Fail 1, and he gets the crit, so he will block the critical damage, which would have been 6, but he will take 2 normal damage, which is a total of 10 wounds. So the Krootox will take 10 wounds there. I believe that will take him down to 6, and he'll be injured. Now for the Kroot activation, the Kroot carnivore leader here is going to moved up from back here, and he's going to take a shot on the warrior within circle so that he will not be able to retain any dice. The leader is going to be hitting on 3+ with his Kroot rifle, 4 dice again. That's going to be 2 normal hits. 5. And the warrior is going to have to roll 3 dice looking for 4 ups. And he gets 2, so he does not take any damage there from the leader. The warrior with the barbed strangler moved up to this objective just to make sure he's on it to get score the VP. He's hoping to make a shot over there, but he just can't see him due to the heavy cover obscuring those guys over there. So on the Kroot's turn, one of the dogs behind this cover made a charge up to this warrior, and now they're going to fight. He's charging from concealment thanks to the strategic ploy that was played. The Kroot Hound will have 4 attacks and 3+, the rending ability. And we can reroll 1 due to the strategic ploy that was played into a 1, classic. And because it's rending, that crit turns this into a crit. And the warrior, he isn't a weapons beast, he's just a standard warrior, so he'll get 4 attacks with his bone swords, looking for 3+, and 5 and 6s are crits. And that is really bad for that warrior, getting only 1 crit there. And 3 misses. So with the Kroot Hound being the charger, first thing the Kroot Hound will do will block the crit there, meaning that the warrior doesn't have any other attacks to respond with. And with the second dice, they will do another implant, which will score them both VPs for that implant attack up. And then the final one will just be crit damage to the warrior. So now we're back to the Tyranid activation, and now that the warrior with the venom cannon has an engage order, he can actually overwatch. This warrior here is not able to overwatch because the barb strangler is a blast weapon. So the warrior is going to overwatch, and he will shoot at the Krootox over there again. This time he'll be hitting on 5s due to the overwatch. It's going to be 5 dice hitting on 5+. That's going to be 2 crits there. And the Krootox is going to have to roll only 2 dice, this is AP1, looking for 4-ups. And that's a crit and a normal. Now the Krootox only has 6 wounds left, which is critical damage from the venom cannon, so that would kill him. So the Kroot are going to spend their final CP and just really attempt to try and turn that into a crit, which didn't. So the Kroot have lost their CP, and the Krootox will die from the 6 damage from the venom cannon. So here we are back to the Kroot's turn. This dog charged up here from behind the barricade there to attack this warrior. Now, because he is within engagement range of a model and he has a little friend with him, he will get +1 to his weapon skill characteristic. So he will now be hitting on 2+ instead of 3+ against this warrior. So he's going to have, again, 4 dice. This time he's going to be hitting on 2+. And one of those is a definite miss. The other one we can re-roll thanks to the strategic ploy that was played. And that's straight into a 1. And the warrior will have 4 dice, 3+. And that is 2 misses, a crit, and a hit. So the hound will choose to parry the normal, like that. And the warrior will hit with the crit and take normal. So the normal will do 3 damage to the warrior, and the warrior will do 6 damage to the hound, leaving it with 2 wounds, and it will be injured. So the Kroot that was behind this shipping container has moved this objective to control it, and he's going to take a shot with his Kroot rifle at the Tyranid warrior right over there. So he's going to be rolling 4 dice, looking for 4+. That is a crit and 2 hits, and the warrior cannot retain any because he's not in cover there. With 3 dice, 4+ save. It's going to be 2 saves, 1 fail. which means he will take the critical damage from the Kroot rifle, which is 4. So he will go down from 12 to 8 wounds there. So the final activation for the Kroot Hound that was behind here is just charged up to attack this warrior. Again, it's going to be 4 dice. It's going to be hitting on 2+ because you can't hit on 1+. So 4 dice hitting on 2+ with rending. Oh, missed one. And I can re-roll this for the strategic ploy into a hit. So it's going to be 4 hits for the Kroot Hound. The warrior is going to have 4 dice, 3+ to hit. That's just 1 crit there, the warrior. Now, the Kroot Hound can't block that crit, because you can't block a crit with 2 normals in fighting, so the Hound will just hit the warrior for 3 damage, and the warrior will crit the Hound back, which will do 6 damage to the Hound, leaving it with 2 wounds, so it will survive, and then the Hound will proceed to do 9 damage to the warrior. So that's going to be a total of 12 damage to that warrior, which will incapacitate him and take him out of action because he only has 11 wounds remaining. So at the end of that turning point, the Kroot have scored 2 VP for the implant because they implanted 3 enemies there. They have scored 1 VP for objective 4 and 2, as the Tyranids have scored 1 VP for objective 5 and objective 1. The Tyranids will score 1 point for execution because, well, we will do that at the end of the battle, but for now they have scored 1 for that because for 2 turning points they have killed more than the enemy, as 2 warriors have died this turning point and 4 Kroot have died in the second turning point because 1 was from the first one. So we will roll the initiative for the next turning point. Tyranids, another 2, and the Kroot with the 2. And because the Kroot had initiative previously, initiative goes to the Tyranids. So I will ready operatives and we'll come back in the strategic phase to see what ploys will be played. Okay, so the Kroot are going to reveal their 2 tac ops here, which is sabotage and upload viral code. Upload viral code, an operative can perform the action while in pentagon of the drop zone, and it will cost them 2 AP action points to perform, but it will score 2 VP for doing that. No, forgive me. Correct myself there. You score 1 VP for each time you do it in the turning point, and sabotage is the same. You have to sabotage some heavy terrain that is within pentagon of the enemy's drop zone. The Tyranids have turned over the challenge card because it cannot be achieved at this point, and attack ops are the same as before. For strategic ploys, the Kroot will play Hunting Call again, allowing them to re-roll 1 dice in the fighting phase, in a fighting action, and the Kroot and the Tyranid will not choose to play any strategic ploys at this point. It's the Tyranid's initiative, so the first thing that they will do is this warrior here is going to finally get to use his Barb Strangler, and he's going to shoot at this Kroot Hound right here. Now it's a blast weapon, which means that anybody within circle of the target operative will also have to resolve a shooting attack against it, which is this one here. So those 2 are going to take shots from the Barbed Strangler there. And the Barbed Strangler will start by doing the attacks against the Hound with only 2 wounds remaining, so we're going to have 5 dice, looking for 4-ups. 3 hits. And the Kroot Hound has no cover, so therefore the save is now 6+. Makes no save, so that particular hound is dead. Now, because it's blast, we resolve the same number of attacks against the Kroot hound that was within circle of it. So again, 5 shots, 4+. Only 1 hit that time. Kroot hound will look for 6s, getting none of them, which means the Kroot hound will take 4 damage, leaving it with 4 remaining. So this Kroot hound here will die, and this one will have 4 wounds remaining. So the Kroot warrior over here is going to move up to this location, and he's going to take a shot at that warrior there. So we're going to have 4 dice with this Kroot rifle, looking for 4+. It's going to be 2 hits there. And the warrior is going to have 3 dice looking for 4+ to save. And he saves all of them, taking no damage. So for the Tyranids, this warrior is going to hop over this barrier, and he's going to engage both of these Kroot here. And he's going to specifically attack the Kroot leader there. So the warrior will have 5 attacks, hitting on 3+. And it's balanced, so he gets to re-roll one of those. So that was a crit there. So a normal hit. And the Kroot leader would usually get 3 attacks, but due to the Lash Whip's effect of reducing the attack by 1, he'll have 2 attacks, hitting on 2+. He gets a crit. We get to re-roll this thanks to this strategic ploy that was played into 1. So only 1 crit from the Kroot leader. So in this instance, the warrior will block that crit with his crit, and then do 2 lots of normal damage, which I believe is 8 damage total, which may leave him with 1 wound. We will see about that. Yes, so the Silent Talons, 2 normal hits is 4 damage each. The leader has 9 wounds, which leaves him with 1 wound, and he is injured. So now this Kroot warrior here with his skinning blade is going to attack the warrior in close combat. Normally he has 4 attacks, hitting on 3s. Due to him being in combat with an ally, he will get +1, so he will be hitting on 2s, but his attack will be reduced by 1 due to the Lash Whip. So he'll have 3 dice, hitting on 2+. 3 regular hits there. And the warrior again is going to have 5 dice on 3+. It's going to be a crit and 2 hits. I think the Tyranids will spend a CP here just to get a reroll on that. And it's into a miss. So the Kroot will dish out 3 damage to the warrior, taking him down to 5. And the warrior will respond with a crit of 6, which will take him down to 2. And the Kroot will respond with another 3, which will take the warrior down to 2 wounds. And then the Tyranid warrior will finish off that Kroot. And that warrior actually had feeding tendrils as equipment, so because he is incapacitated and operative in close combat, he will regain D3 lost wounds there. So he has 2 wounds left. He will regain 2 wounds, so he has 4 wounds left. So with the Tyranids, the venom cannon here is going to take a shot at that dog, just in front of that warrior there. Just thinking about shooting the Kroot the back over there, but unfortunately it doesn't look like you can see him properly from his head. So I'm just going to go with the option of the dog right there. So it's going to be 5 dice, hitting on 4+. It's 3 hits. And the hound doesn't have any cover there, so it's just 3 dice looking for 6 ups. Well, 2 dice, sorry, because it's AP1. And no save, which means that's a dead Kroot hound there. I'm going to go with the leader over here, who's going to pray to any Kroot gods that exist that he's going to get a crit here, because a critical is enough to kill that warrior there. But because he defeated tendrils, he needs a crit to kill the warrior. And he's only going to have 2 attacks, and he's going to be reduced for his weapon skill because of his injury. So it's going to be 2 dice, hitting on a 3+ for that Kroot. Praying for a crit here. And he gets the crit, which is 4 damage, which is death for that warrior. There's no point in rolling the warrior's dice because he will just take him out right there. So the Tyranid warrior that was on this objective is going to make the decision to try and just stop these Kroot here, maybe take them both out. Sort of mentality behind this is to kill the leader to stop them charging him on the last turning point and maybe surviving. At least the warrior can potentially move back here and secure it on the last turning point. So he is going to attack the leader. If he gets any hits, the leader will die, which is more than likely here. It's going to be 5 attacks, hitting on 3s with the rending claws. That's a dead leader there. Kroot leader is a goner. So the Kroot, their last 2 movements, this Kroot warrior swapped to a conceal order and moved up here just to be in range of that objective. And the Kroot hound charged the warrior and passed on the last activation there just so they can secure that objective because they now have more APL on there than the Tyranids, meaning they'll capture and hold that. Over here, there's no one on there, so no points scored. So the Kroot will score 2 for this, while the Tyranids will score none for the primary objectives there. They will get the last VP for execution because it's a 3rd turning point that more enemies have died than them. So we'll just do a roll for initiative for the final turning point. Starting with the Tyranids. 3 and the Kroot with a 3. So it goes to Kroot. Kroot have the initiative. The Kroot will gain a CP, as will the Tyranids, taking the Tyranids to 2 CP and the Kroot to 1 CP. The Kroot will again spend their only CP on Hunting Call to re-roll any dice in close combat, potentially helping them out in the next turning point. And the Tyranids will not spend any CP, and they will keep the 2 for the final turning point. For the Kroot's first activation, the Kroot Carnivore here is going to switch to an engage order, and he's going to charge this warrior here. He has a Skinning Blade, which is normally a 3+ with 4 attacks. Due to his friend, who's also in engagement range, it's going to be 4 attacks on a 2+. So we're going to go ahead and roll that out. So that's 2 hits, 2 misses. Because we played the strategic ploy, we can re-roll one of those into a hit. And the Tyranid warrior is going to have 4 attacks on 3+ with 5s and 6s being lethal because the bone swords. And that's only 1 hit there. So Tyranids, I think they'll spend they actually have 2 CP. They'll spend 1, go down to 1, and do a CP reroll on one of those into a crit. So it's 2 crits, which are 6 damage each there. It's not looking good for that Kroot guy there. So Kroot will hit for 3. He will then take 6 damage. He will hit another 3, and then he will die. Onto the Tyranid's turn. This warrior here is just going to fight the hound on that objective. If he gets any hits, it's going to be death for that hound, because it's 4/6 damage, so 4 dice, 3+. Yep, that's a dead Kroot hound. And then he's just going to dash a bit further forward onto there, and that's the end of his activation. So at this stage, it's not looking good for the Kroot. So the last lone warrior here is just going to take some pot shots at this warrior and then just run away as far as possible. So he's going to have 4 dice, hitting on 4+ with his Kroot rifle. That's a crit and a hit. And the warrior is going to retain 1 dice because of the cover. And roll the 2, looking for 4s. So with the retain save and the 4+ that's been made, he can block the crit. He takes the normal damage, which is 3 damage. And then that warrior, that Kroot guy there, is just going to move as far as possible in this direction. So the Venom Cannon warrior just did a move and a dash to secure that objective, to leave this guy free to charge this warrior. He didn't move the full direction because he could potentially get shot by that warrior there. So he's now going to have a chance to overwatch, and he's going to overwatch on that guy there, who is actually 3 less wounds. So he's currently on 15 wounds, that guy. So because it's overwatch instead of 4+, he's going to be hitting on 5+ with 4 dice. That's just 1 hit, and the warrior can retain a dice due to cover, so that's no damage. The warrior is going to charge the Kroot, try and devour the last of them, and he's going to be rolling 5 dice, hitting on 3+ with the rending claws. And the Kroot is going to be 1 less attack due to the lash whip, and he's going to be hitting on 3+. It's a crit and a hit, and we can reroll this thanks to strategic ploy, which goes to another crit. So the warrior only gets 1 normal, and the Kroot gets 2 crits and a hit. Really determined to survive the game. So the warrior is just going to hit the Kroot. Why not? 4 damage, and then the warrior will take a total of 5 damage, 5 damage, and 3 damage, meaning 13. Which means he actually has 2 wounds left at the end of all that. And that's the end of the game. And at the end, the Tyranids score 2 points for holding this objective and that objective, because these are worth more in the 3rd and 4th turning point, meaning they score 4. So I'll come back once I've worked out the total score for both teams. So at the end of that, the Tyranids get the win with 12 points, and the Kroot get the loss with 7 points. Tyranids scored 4 points on the attack ops, scoring 2 points for rout and 2 points for execution, and the Kroot scored 2 points for implant. I feel like the Kroot, I really wish they were better than they were. I'm sure they can do well in some instances, but I think I made some bad choices on the attack ops there. I think the upload viral code and sabotage are not the best for Kroot, with 2 AP costs having to get over there, and the way the terrain was situated, it probably wasn't the best attack ops to take. Maybe some better attack ops would have scored better. Just the 6 Tyranid warriors is just a bit overwhelming, I think, for the Kroot there. Well, they did put up a good fight. So I hope you enjoyed that, and see you.